Good afternoon, Miss Stacy.
Good afternoon, friend.
What's been going on this past week that is new and noteworthy for you?
Oh, new and noteworthy. Let us bring it to the people. I'm going to bring the last 2 days of new and noteworthy on my we're tackling this insulin sensitivity and weight loss resistance like it's a TV on Black Friday at Walmart. We're just going after it hard and heavy. So that's been the last 2 days of my life, literally changing the way that I eat and being a little bit emotionally conflicted about it because it's so different than everything that I've done so far.
Well, I love how that shows me the differences in mental framework for me and you. You went shopping analogy when you said tackle. I went football analogy in my head when you said tackle. Um, but it's the way that we make things work. So I'm not mad about it.
No, it's and we'll get to talk about it on another podcast, I'm sure. But we are doing something a little bit aggressively with me because we can. Because I'm going to take the praise that I am a compliant client for the most part. This is where
Who
you agree.
who's giving the praise?
You.
And there's how this relationship works, ladies and gentlemen. Justin, let me tell you what the praise that you're giving and the praise that I'm accepting. No more and no less.
I'll sit here and wait patiently. I'll sit and
Yeah,
wait patiently.
I'll just wait for the title. You don't worry, it's fine. Uh, I wish I wish everybody could see this on video. Instead of just listening to it, which of course we are bringing all the live video versions to the YouTube channel, and
Yes, we
so
are.
that's a project on Stacy's end. So she'll have to be the one to update you on the status of all that, at a later time. Um, so you're working
Uh,
on weight loss resistance right now.
that's what we're working on. I'm doing that. I'm learning how to use Canva. I've got my PDF skills, like baby level PDF skills. You and I are just doing so many new things. It was just like, what else could we learn? What else could we do? Let's just throw in 26 carbs a day just for fun. Just sprinkle it on there like confetti and be like, let's go.
Take it, sprinkling it in. It feels more to me like we pulled the plug,
Yeah,
not
we did.
not not sprinkled it in.
Hey,
Uh,
don't mess with my delusions, okay? You just let me keep my delusions.
I'll respect your
Well,
delusions. That's fine.
thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you. Okay, so in turn, because it's been an exciting 2 days here. What's happening on your side of the state line?
I am in the midst of marketing and selling a 44-foot recreational vehicle. And I've had said RV for a little over a year at this point. And yeah, the people that I was renting it to have decided to get a house. So I am no longer renting it. I'm looking at selling outright. So if you're listening to this podcast and you are interested and or know someone who's interested, might be
Mm.
interested in a toy hauler RV, feel free to reach out and we can give you that information if it's still available by the time this hits the interwebs, which probably will be. My idea is actually to release part one and part two within a day of each other.
Really?
Yeah, just so people can
Okay.
be like, "Oh, boom, gonna go." Like the conversation's fresh, and they can go listen to it again, or listen to the back part of it. So, anyway, all that being said, yes, that was what's been happening the past week here, working on selling my RV. Otherwise, it is normal things in the world of starting a business with you, which equals lots of revolving conversations about how to do this and when to do this and how to structure this and who's doing this and who's doing that and that type of thing. But it's actually been pretty fun rather than stressful.
Well, I think that's a good transition into kind of what we talk about because the reason we can do this so well is because of our friendship. right? Anybody can go into business with anybody. And when we say we started a business together, we've been doing this collectively for 15 years. We just recently decided, like, hey, we want to do this together on our own. And so, with a name and lawyers and accountants, and that it's the thing that brings freedom. But because of our friendship, we actually get to enjoy what we do. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like work to me. It feels like we get to do a lot of cool stuff and we're learning a lot of stuff and there's challenges, but it doesn't feel like work to me. Like every day, almost every day, I told Justin, like, I can't believe we get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really true.
You know what's funny is I specifically remember starting my journey as a First Form Legionnaire on the weekend, like literally the night before my wedding, was the night I had the day that I had the interview and got officially, accepted and started that process. So in a way, I feel like this has kind of come full circle. We will be literally pretty much starting our business officially, unofficially on the same day, or at least within the same 3-day time period, right? My anniversary is March 3rd. So that will be this coming Sunday. And, we will be official Fortify Health Coaching sometime between the 1st and the 5th of the month, right?
Yeah, according to the great state of Texas, yes.
According to the great state of Texas. So something I just realized when you were having the conversation about forming business and business practices is that I think that's actually this time of year, funny enough, it has always rotated around new beginnings for me, which is just a realization I had just now. So you're welcome, listeners.
Well, first of all, I don't even know how a year has passed since your last anniversary. That has to be the quickest year ever because I even remember what you got for your anniversary last year.
You
And we were like,
do?
yeah, you got that cool wine box like that has like you and Paige like etched into it. Somebody gave you
Oh
that for that
no,
gift.
no, we got that for a wedding gift. And it had the 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year bottles in it.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
That
And last year was year 5. Yes, that would have been year 5.
yes, year 5.
And so yeah, last year was the last bottle that we drank out of that set, which is a really cool thing. But yes, no, that's not what I got because I was like, you remember? Because I sure as hell don't remember if I got anything, you know. And Paige doesn't listen to the podcast, so I'm not too worried about that.
No, she doesn't listen to the podcast. But I do remember your anniversary last year, and I can't believe it's been a year. But if you do need wine, you can go to, my closet in your house and steal a bottle from our allocation because, our buddy Keith, I don't know that he listens to the podcast either. But we'll give a shout out to Sarlos and Sons.
Hey, maybe you need to send in this episode specifically so Keith can hear it.
So Keith can hear out we're pimping out his cool wine and his family's
Yeah.
vineyard. I'm
Yeah,
down
yeah.
for that.
Holler at Sarlos and Sons Co. out in what would it be? I mean, I know it's San Ynez Valley, but what's the
Los Olivos, the tasting rooms in Los Olivos.
Los Olivos, California. Okay, what up, Keith?
I'll make sure to tag him. Okay,
but
so let's get into it. Let's get into friendship breakups. And I love that you're going to tease these two out back to back because Justin and I don't dish a lot of tea on our lives, but our friendship is something that people really like want to take a deep dive into and find something salacious in. We're not that exciting, but we are highly entertaining, if I do say so myself. So the opposite end of how we came together is got lots of questions of how to navigate a friendship breakup and when to break up with a friend. So, Justin, in your experience, how does that look like in your life when a friendship ends or breaks up? Like, what does that look like from your perspective?
So, like me and you talked about before hitting record, is I've never that I can remember specifically broken up with a friend, specifically ended a friendship based on like boundaries. Like, hey, this is, if you can't respect X, then we have no, we don't have a reason to communicate any longer, right? In the most professional way possible. So in that regard, I've never done that. I've never been like, hey, I just don't think this is it type of thing. Most of any memory that I have of ever losing or just losing touch with a friend is exactly that. It just kind of faded away into the wild blue yonder, as I say. It's just like it just kind of communication stopped. Never made any particular point to return to it, and it was almost like a no harm, no foul type of situation. Like I don't think that I can pull more than 3 to 5 examples out of my almost 30 years of existence that I have ever left something on bad terms. And so for that reason, like even my high school buddies, really none of who I still, maybe one of who I still, have a decent relationship with, meaning like if I text him today, he'll be like, yeah, what's up, man? What you want to do? That type of thing. Um, Other than that is everything else has just kind of faded, gotten stagnant. And not that we couldn't, not that I couldn't drive to a common area tomorrow, like our hometown, and hang out with him for an afternoon, right? That would be cool. But, that would be acceptable. But anything past that would be more than what the investment was, right? So I took no time to hang on to it when either I left for college or I left college and, got married and moved and all that kind of stuff. So that's the extent, really, in my experience, of relationships, specifically friendships, fading away and just not being renewed.
I can probably think of a few that faded, like just you changed locations or changed where you work. And I think, I'm not sure if we touched on this on the previous episode, but when you change like where you work or where you train or where you live, there are some relationships that just don't carry with you. And there are other ones, depending on like what developmental stage you are in life. Like I still have friends that I went to junior high and high school with when I lived in the San Fernando Valley. Like we've literally been friends since we were 14 years old. And we don't talk as often now, but when we do, we would pick up right where we left off. So those aren't the ones that I count. I think that as I've gotten older as an adult, what I want out of friendships is a lot different. And so I don't want to say that I've had a lot of friendship breakups, but it usually comes down to a conflict that I'm willing to like come to terms with and talk about, and usually that somebody else isn't. I think a lot of people would like to just fade out of the periphery of when a friendship is broken, and I'm like, no. Like, hey, this can be resolved, and hey, let's, if this relationship is important, let's work on that. And I've had a couple friendships that definitely broke over really important things actually. And then we worked on bringing them back together. Actually, like this tattoo right here was a friend that I had for so long. And we picked the semicolon on purpose. And it's the place in a sentence where an author could have stopped and kept going. Now, for me, this tattoo is important because it also represents suicide awareness. And so for me, I knew that when I got this tattoo, like for the work that I do, it would be like I'm a safe person to talk to. And it had a dual meaning that we could have stopped this friendship and kept going. And we did keep that friendship for quite some time until another disconnect or something happens. And you can only take so many disconnects. Then you realize like your values aren't in alignment before. Like you changed in one way, they changed in another way, and there's no way to bring that back together. And I've had that actually several times. So when it actually came up on a client call with one of our dual clients this week that had a lot to do with friendships, and it brought up this very question of how to know when it's time to leave a friendship. And I don't know that that's a conversation that I've ever heard talked about, or really even explained as an adult. Has it been something you've ever heard talked about?
Not since I've been an adult.
Not sentimental.
If
Okay.
that if I am such thing, if I do qualify in that category.
I qualify you. I mean, I'm not the authority on all things, but like I think you're an adult. So
You did promote me in a group chat, so I do have you do have the ability to be the boss.
dude, not only did I promote you, but I'm like continually like pimping you out for be like, hey, this is my amazing human. You should listen to all he has to say.
100%.
Uh I am the Justin Carroll PR squad. So when it comes to how to know when to leave a friend, here's one of the parameters that I put on it. When you spend time with them, you feel worse and not better. If you spend time with somebody and you're like, damn, I need to loofah, like I feel dirty or I am more depressed than when it started, then I'm gonna be like, I'm not sure that this is helping. Now, one time, like, don't get me wrong, somebody could be having a bad day, but you know what I mean. Like, they're that person that's just like the rah, rah, rah. Like they're always like, you feel worse after being around them than better. Energy is contagious. For me, that's not a relationship I would stay in. Anything to add to that?
Mm. I mean, I just call that Debbie Downers, right?
Debbie
They're just
Downers.
they're an energy sink, not an energy, fountain. They're not giving, they're taking, uh, whether they know it or not. Generally, a lot of these people don't know it. They just come at you with. They see you more as a soft landing place to store their problems and spew their baggage, rather than someone to be conversed with. That's typically the situation that I see. Is they just kind of, that might not literally take from you, like, hey, can you spot me on this meal, or hey, I need a ride to here or there. Sometimes it could be that, but it's usually more energetic conversation, mental, space type of thing. Is like, Jesus, you know, do you ever stop complaining about things? Do you ever have good things to say? Do you ever have things that you're working on that we can talk about? That type of thing. So,
I agree. I agree. All right, the next little tenet of how to know when to leave a friend. Oh my gosh, this is a big one for me. If they are unreliable, if they dismiss your feelings or don't honor your boundaries. Dude, unreliability, like there are a few things that I am a little bit that's not true. There are some things that I am protective of. My time being one of them. And like time is a gift and like for me to share it with someone or give it to them, I feel like is a thing of respect. And so if I'm making plans or committed to do something and somebody is unreliable or flaky or says that they're going to do something or not, I'm like I can take it for a little bit and then it becomes like, hey, this is actually just who you are. This wasn't like, hey, your car broke down. It's a consistent behavior that for me it takes too much work and it makes me lose trust in people when they're unreliable. It's just that is a big one for me that I'm like I show up and I show up for people like especially my friends in life in a big way. So that's kind of something like it's a little bit it sounds dramatic but intolerable for me.
I like that word though, because it means that you don't you abide by a very specific set, like a very specific code, which is, I don't tolerate broken trust,
Mhm.
unreliability. And
Mhm.
so I agree with all those things. If you don't feel like that person would, wake up with you at 5 a.m. and go for a run, and then maybe that's not something that you do. I'm just using that as a rough example, uh, as a friend example. And you were like, hey, we're going to meet at the track at 5 a.m. and they don't show up. I'm the type of person who would probably give you the benefit of the doubt. I would definitely give you the benefit of the doubt, even though I know especially if I know your character and I'm like, yeah, there's probably a 50-50 chance they don't show up. If it happens twice, I'm not even going to deal with you. I'm just going to be like, all right, cool. Not something you want to do. So not something you're going to do, and move on down the road. But like you said, unreliability is a big not just something that you shouldn't tolerate, but something that you should keenly look for in any interaction that you have, even if it's not a friend. Like even if it's someone that you are talking to online, someone that you are like, I'm thinking of my specific example, someone that it reaches out to try to buy something that you're selling, right? That's not like, you need to know that if they seem unreliable, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, you got a pretty good chance that it is. So that's my kind of 2 cents on that one.
100%. Also, you guys won't be shocked in listening to this. Our answers are probably pretty much going to be exactly the same, just because, like, we are talking about our friendship and what we don't tolerate in friendships. So none of this is actually a challenge that we have in our friendship. So if it sounds like mirrored, you would expect it to be so. Okay, the next one is they don't consider your feelings. Like they're just inconsiderate. And I think that this goes back to conversations we've had previously where I don't need someone to agree with me all the time. I can respect like a healthy difference of opinion until it becomes belligerent, right? That you know whether somebody has a different belief system or different operating system, that it can't move forward. You end up being stuck when somebody doesn't respect or honor your feelings about something.
It's a good point that you make there, that you can't move forward. That's the indicator.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people in friendships, I mean, I would even say we're a great example of, on the surface, there is a difference in the way that we perceive information, the way that we break down the same, piece of the same video, right? If we both heard the same podcast, watched the same video, but our core tenets of how we live our life are the same. So if your core tenets are aligned, then that's really the only place that you need to be concerned about. Because surface level things, as long as you're not holding something against someone, as long as you're willing to forget and forgive, type of thing, then I don't see that as a problem. I actually see that as kind of like being in a significant other relationship. Is you should expect that you're going to have differences. Like having arguments is a normal part of healthy push and pull of a relationship. Because if you don't, you're probably festering a bigger issue, right? So you need to have disagreements. You need to have open dialogue and open discourse. And like you said, if they just dismiss the fact that, like, I don't care what you say, I'm never gonna open my eyes to a new possibility, maybe something that you want to take note of.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just for the record, for people know, we have disagreed. I don't know. I think we've only actually had one like disagree. We actually have hurt each other's feelings before, but we've talked about how we hurt each other's feelings and walked through it. So it's not like you can't be in a friendship just because you disagree or accidentally. And I think that's the piece of accidentally hurting somebody's feelings than completely disregarding their feelings. Like we're going to hurt each other's feelings on accidents, I'm sure, many more times, especially now that we're together all the time. It's going to happen. It's how you repair that. And is the other person in the friendship willing to do the work to repair that? And I think that that's just comes to a communication. Like I know personally, like when I'm mad, you just need to let me be mad. And when I'm done being mad, we can come back and have a logical conversation. But it usually takes me a few days of being mad. And then I'll be like, okay, we can have this conversation now.
I'll say this: it does come down to communication and understanding. So just like everything else. So there's no. It's going to come down to ego of both people, not like ego like I'm better than you, but like ego of I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want to seem like I'm hurting other people, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this is something that I think is probably more prevalent in female friendships. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a female, so don't let me be the all knower. You can put your opinion on this.
Thank you.
If they are getting their feelings hurt, and I'm using quotation marks for those people who aren't watching this, all the time, that's a little bit of a red flag. I don't want friends who are emotionally unstable. I don't want friends who can't deal with very minimal scarring. right? I don't have time for those people who can't take their own licks. Now, if it's a significant thing and you feel like there's a significant difference, again, it just goes back to our previous point. You need to dig into that further. Do we see things the same way? But if you were to come to me every other conversation, be like, Justin, last time we talked, you said this, and it really kind of hurt me. Me personally, I'm going to go back. I'm going to point this finger at myself. Generally, I'm going to say, what did I say? How did I say, that I could have done better? If it continues to occur and I know that I'm watching my step, then it becomes, in my mind, it becomes less of a me thing, more of a you thing. And so that's when we need to open a conversation about what's going on. Because generally, it's not really you, it's really them, right? It's usually that thing, unless you're just being a total dick. And in that case, you would probably know if you were being like a complete asshole, right? So am I kind of stepping in the right direction as far as like from a female standpoint? Because I don't think guys get that emotionally attached to ribbing that happens in friendship.
No, and I don't even think it's fair to have this conversation with me because it's actually really hard to hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
I don't present as your like typical female. I carry more of a masculine energy, which like there's a couple ways you could actually hurt my feelings. Um and I'm really upfront with it. So I'm not super sensitive overall in general, but at the times that there have been instances where like you've said something and it was not intentional, I was like, "Hey, when you said this, like this hurt my feelings, but it actually doesn't have anything to do with you. Like you said it and it's attached to this other thing." So if I'm a little bit sensitive or over responsive to like the stimulus or I pull back a little bit, it's because of what you said, but not that it actually had anything to do with you at all. But I don't think that typically in men do that because your relationships are typically based on riling each other. And I think that's part of why we get along so well is like the things that people don't see off the air is we kind of really do behave like your brother and sister. And like, I think another female would be kind of offended at the way that we talk to each other. But for me, I'm like, I'm totally here for it because that's just the nature of playfulness in that route. But I think it's also because I carry more of a masculine energy than being super sensitive. Not that that I don't have feelings, but that's just not how I present.
If you really want to hurt Stacey's feelings, just tell her that she can't have coffee until an hour after she's woken up, and that really she's gonna have to have second thoughts about continuing the communication with you.
I might renegotiate every business deal we have. I might renegotiate our friendship. I'll be like, could I keep Paige? Like, how do I keep Paige in case and like, because now it's a package deal. Like, how I got bamboozled into this thing, I'm not really sure, but now I'm in it for life, legally attached. I'm like, I have to rethink about this when you ask me to wait for my coffee to take a freaking glucose and ketone read level. Back to the beginning.
Exactly.
Uh, Okay, last one before we get into some fun stuff of what you guys are all here to hear of Justin and I ask each other questions. When to end a friendship? Dude, this is a big one. When they don't honor your boundaries. And I'm going to talk about this from a personal level in things that boundaries are really important in protecting relationships. If you are somebody, I'm just going to go with like who has stopped drinking alcohol and you have made that like, hey, this is my life choice. I'm not going to drink alcohol. Like, this is a struggle for me. And you have friends that these are my air quotes for friends that are like not honoring your boundary and inviting you to parties or all of those things. That's disrespectful, right? And if you communicate that boundary once and it's not honored, great. We're going to give grace for that and give them the benefit of the doubt. Everybody is focused on themselves and you're not their priority. That's just the reality of the situation. But the second time or the third time, they've told you really they're communicating that I don't respect you. I don't respect the safeguards you've put in your life for your core values and tenets. And I think this is the one in friendships that I watch people compromise on until they can't compromise anymore. And this is one that gets hard to be restorable. If I say that, like, hey, everything is repairable, but not everything is restorable, this is a really hard one to restore once it's been broken, because usually people let it go on so long that they tolerated it until they couldn't. And for me, that really comes down to things I've ended a friendship on is how other friendships were treated, other people were treated in
Mhm.
relationships, or if it affects my kids or my husband. I usually let people like I'm a lot more gracious with how somebody directly treats me than I am if how my husband, kids, or the people who I love are treated. That those are going to be like a hard pass for me. I'm not going to let you pass go more than once or collect $200.
Boundaries are the foundation of any relationship ever. So friendships are definitely no different. And so if you have clear, the first onus is on you to be clear about what you expect. You know, I expect that I'm not communicated with during these times I'm with my family. I expect that these, like, this topic won't be broached because it's a sensitive subject for me, right? I expect that you're not going to try to get me to drink alcohol when, I'm working on that part of my life, that type of thing. It kind of brings me back to the phrase of fool me once, shame on me, fool me, or shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me.
Mhm.
Right. And so I think you have a saying for this, but to me, it sounds something like once could be a fluke,
Mhm.
twice is probably a pattern, three times it's probably intentional.
Mhm.
So that's as far as like a specific breaking of a boundary or an instance that just rubs you the wrong way, then that is the general rule of thumb that I personally go by.
I agree. And so if you're in the middle and you're listening to this and this kind of hits you kind of hard, one, because you've never heard it talked about before, uh, your personal integrity of the relationships that you carry matter and it affects your life. So if you're like, hey, there's this friendship, we've been friends for a really long time, just because you have a history doesn't mean you have a future. And I think a lot of people get hung up on
Sure.
history, how long they've been with somebody, even if the relationship, friendship isn't fruitful for their future. And it's okay for things to end. You know, there are friends for reasons, seasons, and lifetimes. The hard part is navigating which friend you put in which bucket. And I would always encourage over the course of losing several friendships is that to be really unattached to the outcome of each friendship and be thankful for however long you do get to have them. I think it really gets hard when people think this is a lifetime friend and they were only for a season. When you enjoy people for the present moment and how you contribute to each other's lives, you don't have to have a permanent ending, though you'd like one. It doesn't have to be like, hey, we're friends when we're 50 and rocking on a front porch drinking sweet tea. You could, but might not.
Um, yeah, I was going to make a very similar point and to say, like the reason, the season, the lifetime type of situation, which bucket do they fall in, is that I think some people, and this is why we're having this conversation, so that you can understand on the front end if you're in a new friendship or you've been in a friendship for a long time and you're just a little bit unsure about what the future of it is. Some people are more apt to be able to grow in certain seasons, and some people are not. And so you may actually have to end that friendship, even, but it might only be even temporarily. You may mature faster than a friend. You may want to go and do things with your life that they just don't jive with. It depends on how old you are. It depends on how much life you lived. It depends on your financial situation. There's a lot of, it depends. But in reality is when you're trying to learn and grow and make yourself better and you're surrounding yourself with people who don't live by those philosophies, there's only one or two things going to happen. You're going to get pulled back into the same old gutter that you've been in, or you're going to learn how to climb out of that, and you're going to have to be a little bit lonely and make a new set of friends that you haven't been used to, because maybe these people were the people that you grew up with or whatever. And just because you're in the same location, just because your parents are friends, and just because you have the same last name, does not mean that the person is tied to you forever. So you like Stacy said, if you want to be the most at peace with it, my advice is to take a step back, realize that does it need to continue or end. If it does need to end, be thankful that you got to be friends with them for, a month, a year, or 10 years. right? Like be thankful for whatever the time was. Think about the lessons that they taught you. Could be things that you don't want to do, right? Thank you for being my friend. And that, it's not something you tell them, but like, hey, I'm thankful that person was my friend because they showed me like that's not the road I want to go down. And you have to be strong enough. You have to be strong enough in your character, which is I think where Stacy is, to be able to say like most things don't affect me, but if you start coming after my husband and my kids, then it's smackdown, right? But when you're strong enough in your own understanding of yourself, maybe sometimes you can bring people along. Maybe sometimes if the person's kind of on the precipice, you can see in their face that they want to change, like you can see in their soul, the character that they want to change, but they just don't know how. Maybe you can be that influence. But if they're so far at step 1 and you're just barely on step 10, right? Not like 110, then it maybe be like, love you, but, and start it there. Does that ring true for you, Stacey?
100%. And I never want to portray that this is easy. This is painful. It's also why people don't do it. It's much easier to let a friendship fade than it is to end a friendship. But usually, and I this has been my experience, is that the other person still knows. Like if you feel that tension in a relationship and a friendship, it's not like you go and have this conversation, it's a hell yes or it's a hell no, and the other person's like, "What? I'm so shocked. I thought everything was fine." No, they know too. Just one of you has to be the stronger person to have the conversation so it can end peaceably. And of course, there's going to be hurt. There's no way, because if it mattered, it hurts. And I love, Justin, that you brought it up, like that you can look back and be thankful for it. There is not a friendship that I have lost that I have not been thankful for the time that we had together, because it made me somebody different or showed me something I wouldn't have learned. And I think a lot of times at the end of a friendship, people are like, well, I saw who they were. Okay, well, listen, look in the mirror there, cowboy. You were something too. Okay. They saw who you were too. So before you claim victimhood of how they did this, betrayed you, talk smack on the internet, whatever, Destiny's Child, my mama taught me better than that. Like you contributed. you
Jesus Christ. Everybody, this is what 95% of conversation with Stacey Hansen looks like. She's gonna pull out some random ass quote from a song. 90% of the time it's right, 10% of the time it's not exactly right, but it's close enough. And then she tries to go past it. Like she didn't just say it. Okay. Let's just like she didn't just say what she said. Like the Kevin Hart skit. I know you're not just gonna skip past that, right? I know you're not just gonna blow past that.
Okay. Okay.
But we can bring it back. We can bring it back.
Bring it back. Let us bring it back to the rest of the questions that inquiring minds want to know about our friendship. Okay, so I'm going to go first. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. If I lost my memory, what would you tell me about me?
Like, how would I remind you who you are?
Mm-hmm.
I would show you pictures of yourself with purple hair. That would be one. That would be the first thing that I would do. So this is where you came from. And then I would show you pictures of you with a kettlebell. Like this is where you went to. I would probably say something like, I would probably do exactly what you just did. I would probably use this interject this line of lyrics into a normal conversation and then be like, you see what I did there? You do that all the time. Okay. I know you don't remember it, but you do that all the time.
Okay, well, I even messed up the question, but thank you for that. The question was supposed to be, if I read the notes that I wrote myself, was, if I lost my memory, what would you tell me about us?
Yeah.
That's a better question.
That is a better question, but I think I was on that path.
You were on that path. Mm-hmm.
I would say that, hey, remember that anything I say or do can't be used against me. Kind of like Miranda rights, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would say we have multiple joint allocations together, and
Oh my gosh.
that would probably jog your memory.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I would say your favorite cocktail, your favorite shared
Mhm.
cocktail is an old fashioned. That
Mhm.
would definitely jog your memory.
That
Uh,
would.
um, and yeah, those are the top memories of us for me off the top of my head.
Okay. I would add, if I was going to tell you the same, the memories about us, if you lost your memory, I would bring you back to day one when you weren't my friend, when you were just some stranger on the internet who God decided needed to be my coach and my friend and my business partner and traveling adventure buddy of hey, there was a day that I told you how I was going to let you coach me. I would remind you that sometimes, though I don't present it, that we have the ability to make each other really sensitive in ways that other people don't get to see. And it's usually in a vehicle that we can't get out of.
Yeah.
Uh, I would remind you of our first time ever rolling together, jujitsu together. And I would say, whatever happens on the mat stays on the mat, and we're drinking later. And that we went and got a donut after.
A terrible donut, by the way.
It was so bad. It was so bad. Uh, those are the things that, and then I remember you of the day in the vineyard, really, and this goes back to Keith. That was one of probably the favorite things that we've done, is walking through through the vineyard. That's what I'd remind you of us.
People's places and things, man. People's places and things. That's good stuff right there. What's next?
Okay. What do you think that you are learning from me?
In a word, it would be timing.
Ooh.
Timing. The most specific example I have of that is you have taught me that there is a certain time and place, metaphorically, not like an actual place, in a conversation to position certain statements or certain questions. For example, when people, and I've had this happen probably 90% less in my conversations than you do, but when I have clients who are telling me a really sensitive piece of information and they start to cry, I just turn into not a human being. I don't even know what to do with that, right?
It's
Uh,
true.
I look like a dog in the backyard who's taking a poop and just looks super helpless, right? Super vulnerable. I don't know what to do.
I
And
don't know what to do with my hands.
yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know
know
what
what
to do
to
with
do.
my hands. I turn into Ricky Bobby in a TV interview. And so you have taught me that there's timing involved in that process of the proper handling of that thing, but there's a lot less that needs to be said than appropriate things that need to be said. It's more like nothing. It's more like just space. It's more like just being willing to hang out in the ether of nothing in a conversation, and that's okay. And so to me, I think, like, in my head, it comes down to the timing of the pause or the timing of the statement, that type of thing. I think that is that's what I can think of. What about you? What are you learning from me?
Oh my gosh. Well, so much. But I will tell you the most pivotal one is detachment and releasing the outcomes. From somebody who came into this friendship and relationship so in perceived control of so many outcomes, it's that we get to do and have been handed challenging things together and release the outcomes of it. And it's been so freeing, because if I get a little bit emotional or keyed up about something, one of my favorite things that you say to me, and there's always a hand motion. If you guys aren't watching this, please watch it. Justin says to me, well, hold on. Well, and there's like the head and the hand. Well, hold on. And he hasn't been wrong. And so it's that space of, hey, I don't have to control all the outcomes, and I can be a little bit even more detached from it, is what right now is what I'm learning the most of. I think as we grow, it'll continue to grow. Like, our answer will be different maybe 6 months from now. Okay. Next one. I'm going to pick one that doesn't make either of us cry. Okay, I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to have you answer it first. When do you feel closest to me and why? Don't steal my answer. Do not look at me and steal my answer right now. If you steal my answer right now, I'm going to be so mad.
You know I'm about to steal your answer.
No, do not steal my answer.
Okay, I won't steal your answer. I
Go,
won't
go
steal
ahead.
your
You
answer.
can. If it's authentic, we're just going to give it to the people. And it's like in line with the whole podcast because, of course, it's the same answer. Of course, it's the same answer. Why would it not be the same freaking answer?
When we do jujitsu together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we roll
Yeah.
together. And that's actually a physical thing, obviously, right? Because you have to grapple with each other. And the proximity is what it, I mean, you can't deny physical proximity makes you feel physically or emotionally closer to someone, right? It's just like you can't, it's hard to have the same relationship through a screen than you do as next door neighbors, right? It's not going to work the same way. It can work, just not the same way. The reason why I would say is because the action, the reaction is so comical because in a way, neither one of us really know what we're doing in that realm, right? It's not like we're two professionals that are doing it. We're two baby itty bitty white belts that don't know exactly like what it's like. Step one, did it, now what? It's that type of thing. It's like I don't know what to do with my hands. It's like, okay, I did this, now what's next? And it's that like that disjointed comedy, almost like slapstick comedy style jujitsu that we do together that is the reason why it's so cool.
Well, and that was 100% my answer. One, it is the physical proximity, but also that there's a vulnerability at not being good at something together. And like Justin is more advanced than I am at this point, but especially like in a friendship is that when you are that committed to be like that physically close to each other and getting out of your own way and trusting the other person completely, like kind of with your life and your whole body, like there's no other, like outside of like a spouse or relationship like that, when you're on the mat with somebody, that's a pretty intimate relationship, not in a sexual way, but in a relational way that it involves so much trust. And I remember you guys have to remember that the first time Justin and I met in person was were 15 minutes later on a mat. So we went from hi, how you doing to hey, I'm going to choke you, get in my guard. And like, I don't know that there was anything better that set the course of our friendship than being forced into that situation. And then it was really the catalyst. Like, if we can do that, like we could do anything. If we can do that, we could do anything.
What also made it very comical too, just as a not unrelated detail, but a funny detail, is that the instructor that day was truly Brazilian, and he could not. I mean, he could speak English well enough to form a sentence, but it was still very broken. And Stacy would lean over and be like, "Do you understand anything that he's saying?" And I would be like 60% of it. So we would just kind of like do what we thought was right. We would like take context clues and look and be like, okay, I think this is right. And even when he would come and correct us, we would still walk away and be like, I'm not sure I understand. So it was also a bonding moment in the fact that neither one of us could understand what he was saying.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question, and
Okay.
I love this one. What experience can you not wait to have together?
I can't wait.
Don't make me cry.
How am I not going to make you cry? Okay.
I can already tell by your face like you're going to make me cry now. Go ahead.
I can't wait to the first time that we get to go spend some time down at my house with my parents, and you get to cook and bake and have conversations with my parents. That is a shared experience that I have done with Ted, Stacy's husband. By the way, Stacy's still a little bit salty about it that he got to do it first. It's just the way things happen, but I can't wait to do that because my mom is one of my best friends as far as like just between my parents. I'm probably a little bit closer with my mom just because, she's not as kind of emotionally closed off as my dad. Again, different thing, different story. I am close to my dad, don't get me wrong. But introducing people to my mom is not something that I necessarily take lightly, meaning like, hey, I want you to, not like, hey, here's my mom. It's like, hey, I want you to get to know my mom. It's that type of introduction. I'll introduce anybody to my mom. She's friendly. But, hey, I want you to get to know my mom. And she's going to have different views and questions and things like that, that will get to show you, like, illustrate me more to you, just like when I met your kids and Ted and one day if I meet more extended family of yours, to be like, oh, this makes sense why Stacy is the way Stacy is.
Oh yeah, when you get to meet my mom and dad, oh God, you will have so much understanding, so much understanding. Okay, things that there's so many things, and I talk about them all the time. I kind of describe every new thing that Justin and I get to do as a roller coaster, that we're just like clicking up. Like, we're going to take our first flight together in May. Okay, we've got like seats, things we've never done together before. When we get our blue belts together, like when we both become blue belts, like I can't wait to do that together. I can't wait to freaking go to Australia together. Like right now, Australia is on my mind, and so for us to get to experience like an international flight and go do all that is on the periphery for Australia, that's kind of cool. But the thing I'm most looking forward to, one of them, there's a lot of them, is when our office is really together and painted black and it has a guitar on the wall and there's the bourbon curation behind us. That is like that day when you guys get to watch it at the beginning when we're 3 states away right now. But when we have a space and we're in the same room getting to do this from the same location like every week, damn, I can't wait to do that.
That's when the real podcast studio comes into play. The real one.
Oh, the real one. The realist.
Yeah, all that stuff's going to be super fun. Yours has a lot more to do with like shared one-on-one experiences versus like, hey, this is something that I do all the time. Let me bring Stacy into it. That type of thing, which I think is cool, obviously. So that is that's all we're doing today.
Yeah,
That's all we got today.
Ask. I already gave you access. You already got to hang out with my most important people, right? You already got to hang with my husband. There isn't anybody else I'd bring you to the table for that's that important. My husband just got to do it first, as it should. So there's only experiences left because you got all my important people already. Like, my kid is literally training more jujitsu so he can roll with you. Like, don't worry, the pictures are coming of him being like, Justin, are you hungry? Yeah, as he's getting
Oh, I can't wait. I guess I better take my mat time more seriously.
You better take your mat time more seriously, son. Nope, that's all we got for today. That was a really thanks for doing this with me. I hope you guys learned something today. Not only about us. I mean, this is our friendship, so it is personal to us, but how friendships are built when the time is to end them, and that it can be done somewhat beautifully, but not necessarily painlessly.
Sure. If you want to get a hold of us, you can reach out to us on social media is the easiest way, right? Stacy J. Hansen and Farmer to Fitter. That's TO, not the number 2. Farmer to Fitter on Instagram. Or if you want to talk about potentially working with us as health coaches, you can go to stan.store/Fortify Health. So that's STAN stan.store/Fortify Health. That's our website, quote unquote. You can find that in the links of our Instagram bios as well. So that's where you can find us. That's where you can hit us up. If you love this, give it a review, give it 5 stars. If it's not going to be 5 stars, then just don't leave a review. No, just kidding. Tell us what you think. We'll do it better each and every time. And until next time.